It is a Saturday morning in late July, and you are standing in the yard in your boots, looking at a stretch of grass that was green 6 weeks ago and is not green now. It has gone dull, gray-brown in patches, tired-looking in the spots where it is not outright bare. You already know what it costs to fix this the way the hardware store wants you to fix it. $27 for a bag of name-brand lawn fertilizer. Another $18 for the summer stress formula they put on the end cap. $45 of product sitting in the garage, and you have not even turned on the sprinkler yet. And that water bill is climbing, too. You have done this before. You have bought the bag, spread it, watered it, and watched the lawn look a little better for 3 weeks before it faded back to the same pale nothing it was before you spent the money. And next season, you will do it again, because nobody ever showed you a different way. There is a different way. There is a mixture you can make from 3 things already sitting in most homes, a mixture that costs under $1 to put together, that can green up a tired living lawn in about 48 hours. And the reason you have never heard of it is the same reason you have never heard of most of the old cheap fixes. There is no money in teaching it. Nobody runs an ad for a 90-cent lawn correction. Nobody stocks a shelf with "just use what is under your sink." The entire lawn care aisle exists because it is easier to sell you a new bag every season than to hand you a skill you only need to learn once. By the end of this video, you will know what that mixture is, why the chemistry is not foolish, exactly how to use it without burning your grass, and, just as important, how to tell whether your lawn actually needs it or needs something else entirely. And I will not leave a single price out, because a number you can check is worth more than a promise you cannot. I want to be straight with you before I go any further. If your grass is truly dead, if the crowns are brown and dry and nothing comes back when you tug, then no tonic, no mixture, and no internet miracle is going to bring it back. That is just biology. Dead tissue does not green up. What I am going to show you today is something different and something honest. There is a very cheap mixture, we are talking pennies, that can green up living grass that has gone pale, tired, or stressed from heat, shallow watering, or mild nutrient hunger. It works on turf that is still alive but struggling. And I can explain to you exactly why the chemistry behind it is not foolish. But I am also going to tell you where it does not work, when to stop using it, and what to do instead when the real problem is not a missing ingredient, but compacted soil, disease, or grass that needs to be torn out and restarted. By the end of this video, you will understand the 3 ingredients in this old tonic, why each one does what it does, exactly how to mix it, and apply it without burning your lawn. And just as important, how to tell whether your yard actually needs it or needs something else entirely. And I will put a dollar amount on every single thing because that is how you make a real decision instead of a hopeful one. I am Hal Perkins. I was raised by people who never bought a thing if they could understand it first. My father would look at a machine and ask what failed. My mother would look at a receipt and ask what you were paying for that you did not need to keep paying for. They did not chase tricks. They understood problems. And that is the difference between a person who saves money and a person who just buys the cheapest version of the wrong thing. So I want to walk you through this the way they would have. Carefully, honestly, with the numbers in front of you, and no promises I cannot back up. Now, before I show you what to do, you need to understand why this mixture does what it does. Because once you understand the why, you will know exactly what to expect and exactly what not to expect. And that is worth more than the recipe. There are 3 ingredients in this tonic, and each one has a job. The first is household ammonia, clear, unscented ammonia. The reason people reach for ammonia is nitrogen. Nitrogen is the single nutrient most responsible for the green color and the active growth you see in a lawn. When turf scientists talk about what drives turf color, nitrogen is the answer almost every time. A lawn that has gone pale or yellow-green is, more often than not, short on available nitrogen. Now, ammonia is a soluble nitrogen source. When you spray it on grass blades in a diluted solution, some of that nitrogen can be taken up through the leaf surface, what the turf researchers call foliar uptake. That is real. Foliar applied nitrogen has been studied and measured, and it can produce a visible color response in a fairly short window, sometimes within a couple of days. But here is the part you need to know. Household ammonia is not a controlled agricultural product. The concentration varies by brand. It can volatilize, meaning the nitrogen escapes into the air very quickly in warm weather, and if you over-apply it or spray it on hot turf in the middle of the afternoon, you will burn the grass. Foliar nitrogen is a real tool. It is not a forgiving one. The second ingredient is Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate. Magnesium matters in a lawn because it is part of the chlorophyll molecule, literally part of the green. So the logic of adding it is not crazy. But university extension sources are very consistent on this point. Most home lawn soils are not actually short on magnesium. If your soil already has adequate magnesium, and many do, then adding more does not make the grass greener. It just adds salt that the plant does not need. So Epsom salt in this tonic is best understood as a maybe. It helps if magnesium is actually low. It does little if it is not. And without a soil test, you are guessing. The third ingredient is baby shampoo, and this is actually the most sensible part of the recipe. Baby shampoo is acting as a surfactant, a wetting agent. If you have ever noticed water beating up on your lawn and running off instead of soaking in, that is a water-repellent soil surface, and it is more common than people think, especially in compacted or dried-out yards. A surfactant reduces the surface tension of water and helps it penetrate into the soil instead of sheeting across the top. Turf professionals use purpose-built soil wetting agents for exactly this reason. Baby shampoo is a crude, imprecise version of that tool. It is not the same chemistry as a professional product, but it can improve surface wetting enough to make a noticeable difference on a lawn that is shedding water, so that part of the recipe is doing something real, even if it is doing it in a rough way. Put those three together, and what you actually have is this: a cheap, diluted spray that delivers a small hit of foliar nitrogen, a conditional dose of magnesium, and a mild wetting effect. On a lawn that is alive but pale and stressed, that combination can produce a visible green-up in roughly 48 hours. That is the honest promise. It is not a miracle. It is a nitrogen bump and better water penetration. And on the right lawn at the right time, that is enough to see a real difference. If you are the kind of person who wants to understand what you are doing instead of just being told what to buy, that is exactly what this channel is here for. Hit subscribe. I put out one of these a week, and every single one follows the same rule. Understand why, then do it yourself and keep the savings. Now let me show you exactly how to do this. Here is what you need, and I will put a price on every item so you know what you're spending before you spend it. Unscented Epsom salt. You can get an 8-pound bag at Walmart right now for about $6.97. You will use roughly 1 cup per batch, which means that bag gives you many batches. Clear household ammonia, not sudsy, not lemon-scented, not anything with additives, just clear ammonia. A 64-ounce bottle runs about $2.12 at Walmart. Again, 1 cup per batch, so this lasts. Cheap baby shampoo. A 21-ounce bottle of store brand runs about $2.58, and you are using 1 to 2 tablespoons per batch. A hose end sprayer you can measure into, and your water supply. When you add it up, a single batch of this tonic, 1 cup of ammonia, 1 cup of Epsom salt, 1 to 2 tablespoons of baby shampoo mixed into water, costs you well under $1 in consumable ingredients. For comparison, a standard 5,000 square foot bag of Scott's Turf Builder fertilizer at Home Depot is running about $27.24 right now. That is the number that makes people curious about this tonic, and it should. Under a dollar versus 27. But cheap means nothing if you waste it on the wrong problem. So before you mix anything, you need to diagnose. Step 1. Go outside and do the tug test and the crown check. Grab a handful of the brown or pale grass and pull. If it comes up with no resistance, no roots, and the base of the plant behind the crown is brown, dry, and crumbles, that grass is dead. Dead grass does not respond to tonic. It does not respond to fertilizer. It needs to be reseeded or resodded. If the grass holds and the crown still has some firmness or any trace of green or white at the base, you are likely looking at dormant or stressed turf. That is the lawn this tonic is for. Step 2. Check whether water is actually getting into your soil. Take a long screwdriver and push it into the lawn. If it will not go in, or if you have to lean on it hard, your soil is compacted. Also, watch what happens when you water or when it rains. If water puddles, beads up, or runs off instead of soaking in, you may have a hydrophobic soil surface. In either case, the tonic surfactant may help a little with surface wetting, but the real fix for compaction is core aeration. Punching holes to let air, water, and roots move. No tonic replaces that. Step 3. Mix small and mix carefully. In the sprayer jar, dissolve 1 cup of Epsom salt in warm water. Stir it until the crystals are as dissolved as you can get them. Add 1 cup of clear ammonia. Add 1 to 2 tablespoons of baby shampoo. Top up with water according to your sprayer's fill line and operating volume. Do not add anything else. I have seen internet recipes that throw in beer, corn syrup, mouthwash, cola, and everything short of birthday wishes. Every ingredient you add without understanding what it does is a chance to change the concentration, attract pests, or burn the turf. Keep it simple. The ammonia is your nitrogen. The Epsom salt is your conditional magnesium. The shampoo is your wetting aid. That is all you need. Step 4. Patch test first. Pick a small, inconspicuous section of the stressed lawn, maybe 3 feet by 3 feet, and spray it lightly and evenly. Then wait 48 hours. You are watching for 2 things. First, do you see any green up or improvement? Second, do you see any burn, gray-brown tips, tissue that looks worse than before, any sign of injury? If you see burn, stop. You either have too much concentration, you applied in too much heat, or this lawn cannot handle it right now. If you see mild green up and no damage, proceed to the full application. Step 5. Apply in cool conditions. Early morning is the best window. The turf is cool, the sun is low, evaporation is slower, and the spray has time to sit on the leaf surface and begin doing its work before the heat drives it off. Do not spray in the middle of a hot afternoon. You will lose nitrogen to volatilization and dramatically increase burn risk. Late evening is a second option, but long overnight leaf wetness can invite fungal disease, so morning is better. Step 6. Spray lightly and evenly. This is not a drenching. You want a light, uniform coating across the turf, enough to wet the blades and the soil surface, not enough to puddle. The mechanism here is a combination of some foliar uptake through the leaves and better wetting of the top layer of soil. More is not better. Heavier application increases the nitrogen concentration on each blade and raises the chance of chemical burn. 1 pass even and light. Step 7. Water correctly afterward if drought stress is part of the problem. The tonic is not a replacement for proper irrigation. If your lawn is struggling because it is not getting enough water, or because you are watering too often and too shallow, the tonic might give you a cosmetic green up while the root system continues to weaken underneath. After the spray has had an hour or two of contact time, return to deep, infrequent watering, the kind that soaks the root zone 6 to 8 inches down, then lets the soil dry out between sessions. Deep watering pushes roots deeper. Shallow, daily sprinkling keeps roots near the surface where they cook in summer heat. Step 8. Reassess at 48 hours and again at 1 week. If you see color improvement but the lawn is still thin, patchy, or weak in spots, that tells you something important. You got a cosmetic response, not a full recovery. The grass looked greener but did not actually get healthier. That means the deeper issue, compaction, shallow roots, poor soil biology, low organic matter disease, is still there. If the tonic produced no visible change at all, stop applying it. You have just spent under $1 to learn that the problem is not what the tonic addresses, and that is valuable information. Move to a soil test through your local extension office, an irrigation audit, or a conversation about renovation. Where not to use this. Do not apply during extreme heat stress. Do not spray on obviously diseased turf. If you see ring patterns, circular dead spots, or fuzzy gray-brown lesions, you are looking at a fungal problem, and adding nitrogen to a fungal disease can make it dramatically worse. Brown patch in particular gets more severe with excessive nitrogen. Do not spray on brand new seedlings. Do not spray on a lawn that has already been heavily fertilized this season. The whole point is a cheap nitrogen bump for a hungry lawn, not another layer on an overfed one. And here is the wrong approach debunked plain. The wrong way to use this tonic is to treat every brown lawn like it has the same problem. A brown lawn can be thirsty, starved, compacted, dormant, diseased, or dead, and each of those is a different condition with a different fix. The tonic addresses one narrow slice, mild nitrogen hunger plus poor water penetration, and even then, only temporarily. If you use it like a magic spray for every yard problem, you will waste your time, you may make things worse, and you will miss the real issue until it costs you real money. Now, where this recipe sits in the old ways, I want to be honest with you about the history, because that matters on this channel. You will hear people say this is a Depression-era formula from the 1930s, and I understand why the idea is appealing. But I could not trace this exact 3-ingredient combination, Epsom salt, ammonia, and baby shampoo, to a clean, documented source from that era. What I can tell you truthfully is this. Long before the lawn aisle in your hardware store had 40 products on it, people already understood that yellow growth usually meant a nutrient problem, that cheap soluble nitrogen greened things up, and that water had to get into the soil to do any good. Those are old principles, and they are sound. The modern recipe is most likely an adaptation of that frugal logic, someone who understood the old idea, built a version with what was in the cabinet, and passed it along. So this is not a precisely documented Depression-era formula. It is Depression-era thinking applied to a modern lawn, and that distinction matters because on this channel, I do not tell you something is proven when it is inherited, and I do not tell you something is inherited when it is guessed at. The principle is old and real. The precise recipe is folk adaptation. Both things can be true. The ongoing habit that keeps your lawn healthy and keeps you from reaching for any tonic or bag more often than you need to is not complicated. It is boring. Mow higher. 3.5 to 4 inches for most home lawns in most climates. Taller grass shades the soil, holds moisture, and crowds out weeds better than short grass does. Water deeply and infrequently, not every day, not a light mist, but a real soaking that pushes water down to where roots should be, then let it dry before you water again. Core aerate compacted areas because no amount of surface spray fixes a root zone that cannot breathe. Leave your clippings on the lawn when you can because they return nutrients to the soil for free. And if your lawn keeps fading, yellowing, or thinning despite good mowing and watering, get a soil test through your county extension office before you buy anything else. Missouri Extension recommends testing before establishment and every 3 years on an established lawn. That $15 or $20 test tells you what the soil actually needs, and it stops you from spending money on things it does not. Here is what this tonic does well, what it does inconsistently, and where it flat out fails, because you deserve all three. It works strongest on a living lawn that is pale from short-term nitrogen hunger. If the turf is alive, but just has not had a feed, a small foliar nitrogen hit can produce a visible color change within a couple of days. That is not a guess. Foliar nitrogen uptake has been measured in turf research, and quick visual response is documented. It also helps if your soil surface is mildly water repellent, because the shampoo surfactant can improve infiltration enough to get moisture where it needs to go. It works mildly and inconsistently where magnesium may be low. The Epsom salt component is conditional. It helps if you happen to be deficient, but many home lawns are not, and without a test, you do not know. And it fails on truly dead grass. On chronically compacted soil where roots cannot grow regardless of surface treatment, on turf diseases like brown patch or dollar spot where added nitrogen makes the problem worse, on severe localized dry spots that need subsurface wetting agent or drainage work, and on overshaded areas where the issue is light, not chemistry. It also fails in the most subtle way possible. It can make a lawn look greener without making it healthier. If you see green blades on top of a thin, shallow-rooted, compacted base, you have color, not recovery. Those are not the same thing. And if the lawn never greens up at all, or if the same patches keep coming back brown in the same pattern, that is your signal to stop spraying and start diagnosing, soil test, irrigation check, disease identification, or professional renovation. The safety on this one is simple and non-negotiable. Never mix ammonia with bleach. Never mix ammonia with any chlorine-containing cleaner. The combination produces chloramine gas and it can kill you. This is not a soft warning. Keep bleach out of the area entirely when you are working with ammonia. Mix only outdoors or in strong ventilation. Use clear, unscented household ammonia. Nothing with surfactants already added. Nothing with fragrance. Nothing labeled sudsy. Keep the mixed tonic away from children and pets until the lawn is completely dry. And remember that not all household ammonia is the same concentration. Illinois Extension has flagged this specifically. Many homemade recipes do not state the starting ammonia concentration, which means the user can easily over-apply nitrogen without knowing it. Start conservative. 1 cup per batch. Patch test first. Cool conditions, and stop at the first sign of burn. Here is where it all comes together. You have a tonic that costs under $1 per batch in household ingredients. It delivers a small hit of foliar nitrogen, a conditional dose of magnesium, and a mild surfactant effect. On a living, stressed lawn that is nitrogen hungry or shedding water at the surface, it can produce visible green up within about 48 hours. It is a cheap diagnostic test and a real short-term help. It is not a cure for dead grass, a fix for compacted soil, a treatment for lawn disease, or a replacement for proper watering, mowing, and seasonal care. It is one tool, an inexpensive one, in a toolbox that still needs a soil probe, a core aerator, a sharp mower set to the right height, and an honest assessment of what your yard actually needs. The honest math is plain. 1 batch of this tonic, under $1. 1 bag of name brand lawn fertilizer for 5,000 square feet, about $27. If your lawn responds to the tonic and all it needed was a cheap nitrogen bump and better surface wetting, you just saved yourself $26 and learned something about your yard in the process. If your lawn does not respond, you spent under $1 to find out that the problem is deeper, and that $27 bag would not have fixed it either. Either way, the tonic is the cheaper first question to ask. But the bigger savings are not in the tonic. They are in the habits. Mowing higher saves water and reduces weed pressure. Watering deeply and less often cuts your water bill and builds stronger roots. Core aerating on schedule prevents compaction from ever reaching the point where nothing grows. Leaving clippings returns nitrogen you would otherwise have to buy. Over the course of a year, a homeowner who does those 4 things correctly can easily avoid 2 or 3 unnecessary product purchases and significantly reduce water waste. The tonic is the attention getter. The habits are the actual money. There is no money in teaching you this. There is no product line in telling a homeowner to mow higher, water less often, test the soil, and try a 90-cent tonic before buying a $27 bag. There is a great deal of money in making every lawn symptom into a product category. Spring green-up formula, summer stress relief, fall root builder, disease control granules, soil softener, water saver additive, dethatching solution. Every one of those categories puts a bag or a bottle in the cart, and every one of them generates repeat revenue. Meanwhile, the extension offices keep publishing the same quiet papers they have always published. Test the soil, water right, mow right, aerate compaction, reseed dead patches, and be cautious with soluble nitrogen. Nobody had to coordinate a system where the product aisle wins and the simple skill is never taught. A product with packaging sells itself off the shelf. A skill has to be passed down on purpose. That is not a conspiracy, it is just the way a market works when nobody is protecting the free alternative. This was never really about a lawn tonic. It was about whether you know the difference between green color and actual recovery. It was about whether you can stand over a brown patch of grass and figure out what is wrong before you buy something. Because a home that depends on the store for every answer is a home that pays for every answer. And a home that understands its own yard, what the soil needs, how the water moves, when to feed and when to fix, that home does not need a new product every season. It needs judgment, and judgment is free once you have it. Here is what I want you to do. Tonight, go outside and do the screwdriver test. Push it into your lawn in 3 or 4 different spots. Feel whether the soil is loose or locked up, then do the tug test on the brownest patch you have. Is the crown alive or is it gone? Those 2 tests cost you nothing, and they tell you more than any product label ever will. This week, if you have living, stressed grass, mix 1 small batch of the tonic and patch test it on a 3x3 section. Apply in the early morning, spray light and even, and check it in 48 hours. This month, correct your watering, deep and infrequent. Raise the mower to 3.5 or 4 inches. If the screwdriver test told you the soil is hard, rent a core aerator or hire it done. It is the single most productive thing you can do for a compacted lawn. This season, get a soil test through your county extension office. It runs $15 to $20 in most states, and it will tell you exactly what your soil needs and what it does not, which means you stop guessing and stop buying things that do not address the actual problem. Now, I want to hear from you. 2 things. First, what part of your lawn costs you the most money right now? Is it the fertilizer, the water bill, the bare patches that keep coming back, or something else? And second, if your father, your grandfather, or an old neighbor had a yard trick that actually worked, put it down in the comments. Those little inherited methods disappear when nobody writes them down, and I read every single one. Hit subscribe if you have not already. Every video on this channel follows the same rule. Understand why it works, do it yourself, and keep the savings. Next time, same principle, different problem, same low cost. The old cheap way to figure out whether your yard needs water, air, or seed. before you waste another dollar feeding the wrong thing. Until then, test before you treat, keep the dollar amount in front of you, and stop buying what you can understand. That is how it is still done in any home that remembers.